3 Million Years from Earth, the Red Dwarf Podcast. Thanks for the memory. Its crew, Blake Braswell, a USA native, and Lee Malaby, his English co-host. Additional. A lifetime of watching Back to the Future and Terminator kept me up at night wondering what erasing the Inquisitor from the timeline means for the continuity of Red Dwarf. More importantly, did the Teasy Weezy joke still happen? Yes, I know when they hit. What's up, Smeg heads, and welcome to Series 5, Episode 2 of Thanks for the Memory, a Red Dwarf podcast, where we rewatch every episode of the BBC comedy show Red Dwarf and discuss them. As always, I am Blake with my co-host Lee.
So going off the fact that we talked on the last episode about those English references dying, that even though you wrote that joke before that conversation, you still brought it up, is brilliant.
Yeah, when you brought that up in the previous episode, I was like, I can't wait to do.
So good.
I can't wait to do my additional.
So good. Right, interesting. So this episode, I know I said the last one, it's definitely been probably my least favorite episode so far. This one was better, but still not great. Let's just put it out there. I enjoyed it more than the last one, but neither of these two episodes are going to make it into my top 5. I can categorically say that right now. And I don't want to spoil things because I'm still going to enjoy talk. Even though I went into that last episode like, this is a 5. The conversation we had, I thoroughly enjoyed, and it made me rank it higher.
It's just all about the 6. That's what made you rank it higher.
But this one definitely feels, whereas I said that the way they wrote the story for that one didn't feel very Red Dwarf, this one is a very Red Dwarf episode, 100%.
Oh yes, this is the sci-fi adventure Red Dwarf style.
Yes. So the episode we are talking about today, of course, is the second episode of Series 5, and that is the Inquisitor. And Americans over-enunciating the wrong syllables. It's very funny.
I think what it is English people trying to do an American accent, but then even more so over-accent the R.
Well, actually, so we'll get into it. So this episode originally aired in the UK on February 27th, 1992. The Red Dwarf crew encountered the Inquisitor, a mechanical life form who has made himself judge, jury, and executioner of all of humanity throughout history. If he decides your life hasn't been worthy enough, you are erased and replaced, which is bad luck for the dwarfers. So the guy who plays the Inquisitor, I'm just going to look it up just to double check. We have seen him before. Because he is not English, he is Scottish.
Oh, he's Scottish.
And I'm trying to think,
So that's just him trying not to roll his R's. That's what's happening.
I want to say, I'm pretty sure, I'm like 80% positive at this point, that he was... That's interesting. It's not who I thought it was. Interesting. Wow.
Is he Scottish?
Yes, but it's not who I thought it was. I thought it was the guy who played the other mechanoid that came to replace Crichton.
The simulant that came to destroy... not simulant, but yeah, the other mech that came to replace
Crichton. That's who I thought it was because he sounds like him. Interesting. Okay, I'd take that back. Wow.
Well, it's definitely going for a very similar voice.
It sounded like him. That's why I thought it was.
Yeah.
Gordon, I can't remember who the guy was. Gordon, someone or other. Yeah, I thought it was him.
But the Inquisitor. This show starts with a cold open that's again different than anything else we've experienced, I think, in that it starts with a cold open that sets up the whole show, but without the crew. It is with the Inquisitor and someone else.
Yes, is that you, Mother?
Is that you, Mother? Yeah, that guy's only got a couple lines, and he's brilliant. Decide if you have lived a life worth living. Is that you, Mother?
The voice is really good. I like the voice.
Yeah, so good. And the look of the Inquisitor, mind you, again, I was 12 when this came out. I thought it was so cool looking.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to see this Inquisitor, because it was one of those things I saw in the opening title sequence, but I never saw it. I definitely did not see in order, which I don't think matters at all to Series 5 remotely. I don't know that there's anything that continues one from the other, but this was one that was hard for me to see frequently. So I was excited to get to this one because I had seen it, but of all the replays, it replayed the least. And I was very excited to see this one. And you kind of get two cold opens. You get the Inquisitor that sets up everything for what this Inquisitor does, that he erases you from the timeline and replaces you with someone else, or replaces you with, what does it say, an unfertilized egg, another sperm, whatever, that gets a chance to live in your place. But then you get a second cold open with, again, the crew on Starbug, not Red Dwarf, out doing something. And why? Every time we start an episode, they're out doing stuff. Like Lister's just reading a comic book and they're flying, but there's no like, what do you guys, why
where are you going? Yeah.
Yeah. Like what, and again, I don't know if we're bored. We're going to go do stuff, but I do love the, reading the Odyssey, and it's the comic book version of the Trojan War.
I completely agree with that whole conversation, though, that they were getting attacked by the Greeks and then suddenly they disappear and there's this massive horse that's just big enough to hide the entire Grecian army, and they go, oh, cool, bring it in.
What do you say? To hold 500 of the Grecian army and toilet facilities.
Yes. And then they went to bed.
Well, they said, what did he say? And the thing is, the phrase that has come from is beware Greeks bearing gifts, when it should have been beware of Trojans, they're complete smegheads.
Yeah, and it's true. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, is that supposed to have genuinely happened, or is it just one of those stories?
That's one of those like British sense of humor things I love, where we take a thing that is well known and then we look at it pragmatically and talk about it. That's a very much a British thing, because I would have done exactly the same. It's like, hang on, you can't tell me they weren't like, that seems a bit weird that there's suddenly this thing. It almost is an Eddie Izzard stand-up bit.
Yes.
Like we're going to take the piss out of history for a little bit and talk about it.
I'm going to do a callback. I want to do a massive, massive callback on this episode. Something we haven't seen since Confidence and Paranoia. That's how far we're going back. So Lister gets...
which is funny, because that's another Scottish man doing an American accent in that one.
So we get Lister taken over by the Inquisitor to announce that they're going to... So Holly, something happens, and like, what the hell was that? It's like, we've just had a course correction. Boom, and then it happens again. We've done a complete 180. We're heading back to Red Dwarf. Like, why? What's going on? And then the Inquisitor takes over Lister, and you get the whole thing of like, oh, you have to justify your lives and blah, blah, blah. So they get back to Red Dwarf, and Lister isn't feeling what, so they're like, oh, we want you to go and run you through the Mediscan, just make sure everything's all right. And they're in the medical bay, and Lister has a blanket round him that is a Titan Hotel blanket that we have not seen since Confidence and Paranoia. And I was like, yes, because that's just one of those stupid things I noticed watching that episode, that obviously they go to the Titan Hotel, which is where Lister's staying in Stasis Leak. And I'm like, oh, that's cool, because it's a thing. So they obviously at some point he's gone to that hotel and stayed or whatever and stolen a blanket, and then we never see it again. And I was like, that blanket looks really familiar. And you can see it says Titan on it, and it's white and blue, the same as that one was. So I loved that we got that blanket back.
That is some continuity I love. Even though the guitar has changed shapes and styles, the towel has stayed the same.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, the guitar went from an acoustic Ovation, I hate Ovation guitars, to a sort of Les Paul knockoff guitar for those guitar aficionados of amongst the crew. By the way, I nearly died laughing the other day watching something completely innocuous, and they talked about like, what kind of tree is this? Camphor tree. And I lost it because of the camphor wood from Rimmer's chest. It's the only thing I can think of. It wasn't a funny part of the movie at all. I just started laughing. Okay. I was like,
because it's the only other time you've ever heard the word camphor.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Actually, you know what it was? It was in My Neighbor Totoro, the Ghibli movie from Miyazaki. It's the camphor tree is what's behind them. And I just laughed. I was like, that's funny. I've never heard that wood outside of Red Dwarf, and it's in My Neighbor Totoro.
I love My Neighbor Totoro.
It was my daughter's first viewing. Yeah, it was awesome. Delightful to watch.
We all own all of those, and we still got quite a few of them to watch. They're very bizarre, but we do like them.
Oh, I love them too. They're like meditative to watch.
For just for giggles, I'm going to put it out. So my wife has a sleeve tattoo, one arm, her left arm. It's entirely Dr. Zeus. She has talked if she ever gets another sleeve which she has actually booked in for another tattoo, but I don't think she's getting a sleeve at this point, that she would want a Studio Ghibli sleeve. And I think as a tattoo sleeve, all of that style of animation would look amazing.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yes. But anyway,
Oh, Mr.
tangent.
Miyazaki.
I have not seen the new one, actually. It's A Boy and the Heron. We haven't watched that. I haven't heard good things about it, to be fair.
I haven't seen it either. I've heard it's quite good if you like all his work. It's one of
Okay.
those. It's not necessarily a crowd pleaser. It's a fan pleaser.
Okay.
If that makes more sense.
Interesting. I mean, it's been out on Netflix for quite a while. We've never got around to watching it.
I love that usually every podcast we have some weird information so people can peek behind the
It's just
curtain
life,
and
isn't it?
Yeah, understand what's in our noodles besides Red Dwarf floating around. I think this is a funny one. I talked about this in the previous episode about how Crichton starts becoming a repository of information because he's becoming like an amateur scientist or whatever.
Yes.
But I love in this that how do we explain who the Inquisitor is? Because this is gonna like take too long. Forget it. It's a legend that Crichton will know about, right? And we'll just go with there.
Yes.
And so that Crichton explains like this sort of like myth of the Inquisitor that people would tell sitting around campfires drinking fermented vegetable drinks, competing in tales of blood-chilling terror. And I just, the way he delivers that, it cracks me up. Like Crichton tries to get, I think I'm realizing what I love about Robert Llewellyn's performance. I'm glad you did that because I was thinking our listeners are going to be like, it's Llewellyn for God's sake. And I'm like, there's something about his performance that is works so well. And it really, it's a hint of it in series 4, but here it's locked in of like, he does a thing that is funny and the performer knows it's going to get a laugh, but it's Crichton trying to be a human.
I've said that this episode very much in this episode.
And it's locked in. And so again, when like you watch, you and I've talked about, like, if you imagine your Rimmer and Lister, especially your Rimmer, you when you imagine your head, it is series 1 and 2 of Rimmer, right? And you kind of get these locked in versions of the characters. And when Crichton showed up in series 3, I was like, oh, right. He's not what in my head I imagine yet, because what I imagine is this, particularly this, it's getting closer in series 4, but in series 5, Crichton is just nailed. And this humor that comes out of really trying to be, human by Robert Llewellyn is awesome, and it's so sincere.
Yes,
it's so good, and it's what makes it hysterical. Because when I direct stuff with actors, sometimes I'm like, hey, could you quit trying to be funny? If what you're doing is funny, you don't have to be. And this is the perfect example. It's over the top. The way he delivers this, like, bone-chilling terror, but it's like, what he's doing, instead of trying to be funny, is he's really trying to be human, which is funny. And I know that sounds like it's splitting hairs, but it's one of those performance things.
I agree.
That, like, it's the difference between like, ha, and a really good chuckle and guffaw, because you're like, this is awesome.
But then also, so jumping ahead a little bit, when they go in front of the Inquisitor and have to justify their existence, everyone is played for laughs. So you've got Rimmers, like, I've tried to be good. No, you haven't. All right, in my own way, I've tried to lead a good life. When? Oh. And then, what's that in the corner? Archangel Gabriel, I've completely converted. I'm off. And it's like, you really are a slimy, despicable, rat-hearted discharge of a man, aren't you? And then it goes to Cat, and it's like, well, I've got a great ass. And then we'll get out of this one, smeghead. Yet, Crichton's is, well, Crichton, justify yourself. I'm not sure I can. But surely our life is replete with good works. There can be few individuals who have lived a more selfless life. Like, but I am programmed to live unselfishly, and therefore any good works I do come out of fine motives, but as a result of series binary commands I'm compelled to obey. Well, then how can any mechanical justify himself? Perhaps only if he attempted to break his programming and conduct his life in according to a set of values he arrived at independently. Your argument invites deletion. The rules are yours, not mine. And I love that scene because it's so straight and brilliant, actually. In a comedy show, a really well acted little bit. It's so good.
Well, you bring up something that I think is this. I think ties into a thing that I wrote down. So there's some really funny stuff, bits in here we'll talk about. But you just hit on something that, as I'm watching it again for the first time in years, I'm like, this is almost wasted on this show.
Yes, agreed.
The idea the awesome science fiction concept that a nearly immortal simulant lives to the end of time, watching everything die, and then invents time travel to go back in time to judge who is worthy of this finite life. It sounds like a Philip K. Dick story mixed with Asimov. It is such a cool. You could imagine me like, man, this is a really good science fiction short story, and they're turning it into a movie, right? Like it's funny because it says, like, of course that even in some of the music and stuff, they were really thinking about Terminator and stuff like that. But this idea is brilliant. I mean, like if you think about like your the uncomfortable AI created by Ridley Scott in both the original Alien and then in like Prometheus and Alien Covenant, where, to be honest, I wish he just made a bunch more movies, and in Blade Runner 2, about just this idea of the AI. And like, you can imagine one of those characters living to the end of time being like, well, now that I've seen everything go, that life was so important, I'm going to figure out a way to make sure only the best life lives. I mean, that is great. What an awesome science fiction short story that makes you question like what is worthy, what is a worthwhile life, all the things that the guys here question. And I think it's why it actually rates. I don't usually talk about these. We talked about it last episode, how
it's interesting though, isn't it?
Personal ratings. This one actually rates the lowest of this series.
Really?
Now, this series gets really high ratings, but it rates in at an 8 on IMDb.
Okay. I mean, that's still pretty high, to be fair.
I think it's better too. I think it is punching above its weight in its concept. And I forget, looking ahead of the following episodes, there's a lot of like, this series, a ton of sci-fi high concept, looking at people, looking at psychology, the worth of life. Like there's just a lot of that kind of stuff in this series. Even in the previous episode, the whole moral implication of getting what you want, but this other hologram will have to be, for all intents and purposes, killed to make it happen. Like, it's really, really good. And I don't want. I think maybe wasted on this episode is not really the way to put it. It's just that it is such a good concept. You could easily have seen it becoming a thing.
Yes.
You go, well, I love this movie. Oh, it's based on this short story. Oh, it's really cool. Like, it's a neat idea. It's a really great sci-fi idea.
Yeah. I love that. That's, for me, one of the best scenes in Red Dwarf to date. That Crichton justifying or not, because he can't. Like, how can he? He's just doing things because he's programmed to do it, not because he wants to do it.
Well, and even after Rimmer does the Archangel Gabriel, and the guy's like, whatever, explain yourself. And then he does get real and he's like, well, look, what else could I have done?
And he does, you're right, yes.
Very realistically explains himself.
What else was I going to be? My father was whatever he was, and my mother was the bitch queen from hell. And my brothers were this, that, and the other, and everything I didn't get. Now, what did I get? Unmanageable hair and whatever. Can't remember what the other one was.
Yeah, the unmanageable hair is funny, but even the bitch queen from hell, like, he doesn't deliver that as a joke.
No.
Like, he goes right on despite the audience laughter.
Because it is comedy, and then earnest.
Yeah, and it's really good. And I mean, I do love the cat. Like, that's a pretty shallow answer. Well, some would say I'm a pretty shallow guy
with a great
nice ass.
But again, the cat's just there for the like pure comedy value. Yeah. But it's funny. It is funny.
But it's also like, he is from a cat, so
yeah,
like that works.
And then Lister's just like, I'm not even going to play with your game. Like, just no.
Yeah, and so therefore, to him, his life is absolutely worthwhile, and no other version of him was going to be as worthwhile.
It's interesting.
I like that idea.
It's interesting though, isn't it? What do you class as a worthwhile life? And like Rimmer's like, oh, but I just ended up sucking the chicken soup out of the nozzle of it, and he's like, but that doesn't necessarily mean your life hasn't been worthwhile. Like I said to Tracy when we were watching it, these jobs, someone's got to do them. Mm-hmm. A lot of the time, it's the menial tasks that keep the world ticking over that seem like jobs, but if people didn't do them, the foundations come crashing down.
I always bring it up Douglas Adams, but that's literally the gag in, is it the first book or the second book? The Ark ships that this one planet of humans sends off all their like phone sanitizers and like hairdressers and stuff like that because they just don't want to deal with these annoying people. They're higher minded now.
Is that reference again?
And so it really isn't an arc. They just want to get rid of them, although their planet does die, and because of a disease spread through unsanitized phones.
Yeah, it's true though, isn't it? You need those crappy little jobs, and there's arguments to say that a sanitization person or whatever, a cleaner, whatever it might be, has just as much impact on people's lives as the director of a huge company or the president of a country. Let's just say a country right now.
You ever seen across the world when a total trash unit goes on strike?
No,
it does not. Yeah, was that here a few years ago? Or was it France? There was a garbage strike and it was bad.
So I feel like that's referenced in an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. There's an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia when the garbage people are all on strike and they end up trying to take over themselves and...
Oh, wait a minute. Well, here's one for you. I was trying to figure out what it was, but 6 hours ago, according to NBC News, mounds of trash and cat-sized rats as garbage workers strike in the UK's second largest city. So
there's
one happening right now by you.
Does it say where? What's the second largest city? Manchester?
It's got to be, right? Birmingham.
All right. I don't pay attention to the news unless
it's bad too. Look at all this garbage. Yeah, but it's terrible.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that was going on. Well, exactly, but that's the point, isn't it? Those little jobs.
And look how important it is.
It's like, so let's go, Blake. We people know our backgrounds a little bit at this point. Let's go to our favorite theme park, Universal Orlando. If your custodians go on strike, think about the impact that has on the guest experience on a daily basis in that park. It's huge.
Yeah, it's enormous. I worked at Disney, and I did day one orientation teaching their traditions. And the emphasis put on you cleaning up stuff that you see because our custodial's jobs is so important and it's so hard that everyone should actually pitch in.
Yeah.
It's like drilled into you.
I bet it's not there now. Anyway, that's a different topic.
It's a different. We'll call it our podcast After the Dust.
But look how existential we're getting already on an episode of Red Dwarf.
But I think this episode, it invites it. This concept is so good. And like even listeners and he's the perfect mouthpiece for who's to say who's worthwhile. He doesn't even get concerned that he would be considered as that way because he's like, whatever, who's worthwhile?
Yeah.
Who's deserving of getting pruned, which I will say, we didn't really get a good Holly moment in the last episode. I do delight in the delivery of one of her few lines in this episode of, why does that mean I deserve being pruned? And Holly going, no, being a totally worthless, unwashed space bum is what makes you prunable.
She's been, you look at these two episodes and Holly's barely in it.
No, I know.
Which is interesting. A call back to the last episode when you were talking about Rimmer seeing the crew of the holoship of how he sees himself. And it's interesting that we get a little bit of this when it's like, basically he's looking at people who have lived a worthwhile life and he's like, I can't remember what Crichton says exactly.
Oh, you didn't have to do anything amazing. Just had to seize the day.
And he's like, God. Oh God, yeah. And he's like,
make the most of your time. Oh God.
And he says something else and it's like, are you taking the piss? And it's like, so Rimmer is 100% aware of who he is. Even though he feels like he should be higher up and better, like a better person in a higher society, he still knows why he is where he is because he doesn't live his life that way.
Absolutely. He knows, if all those telethons I called in on, if I'd have known, why did no one tell me? I would have used my own credit card.
Exactly. He knows who he is. He thinks he should be higher just purely because the reason he isn't is because it's everybody else's fault, but he knows who he is.
Yeah, he knows that I just love that. Why didn't anybody tell me? Why didn't anybody tell me this was a thing?
He knows he's incredibly shallow and doesn't really give a crap about anybody but himself. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny that's.
And I love because when you watch it, you feel like watching it, Lister and Crichton are the winners.
Yeah.
And that Rimmer and Kat are the losers.
You think
and
it
then
would
when
be.
he makes the two... When he captures them and says, 2 of you will be marked for deletion, and then makes the cat and Rimmer disappear. Oh, he's taking the cat. Yeah. And looking at Crichton's face, who's like, and he tries to put his hand out to Lister. He's like, he's just disappeared the cat and Rimmer. He's all angry. Sir. Because Crichton instantly knows
Yeah.
what has happened. They're completely safe. Sir, I'm afraid we are the ones. Like, it's such a great little moment. I don't know why he manacles them. I guess because it's two of them. So
Maybe.
Because it looks like in the order of things, he has to bring the other people back and then delete you.
Yes.
Because like that's a thing he has to do. So he does that, brings them back. And I just love that. What are we going to... it's another... it makes me laugh so hard. It's so dumb. But it's like, I don't know, Crichton, if you got any tricks under your sleeves. No tricks, sir. No sleeves.
Yeah, that made me laugh. It was funny. But again, he delivers it so earnestly. It's not like a joke.
No sleeves.
Yeah.
When he just holds his hand out and shakes it, no sleeves. Like, you would punch anybody else making a joke in that reference, but he isn't making a joke. He's like, I don't have sleeves. Like, it's completely unimportant, but like, God, it's such a good delivery. And even him, like his future self showing up to cut the arm off of the Inquisitor.
Yes.
What did I do yet? Oh, right, this. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, now you'll need to go do this. Figure out how to control that. Well, why can't you tell us anything else? Well, that's because I'm about to be attacked by the Inquisitor. He's going to kill me right now.
While I'm talking to you,
jabbering
he's going to pop up behind me. And yeah, there was, I don't know whether it was just me, but I felt there was a Monty Python reference in here. So the Inquisitor, when they're in front of him, justifying their lives, and he opens his mask up.
Oh, it looks like Sir Bedivere. That's the first thing I thought.
Well, I actually thought it looked more like the knights who say, "Nee."
Oh.
That's
but
where
you know,
I went.
Isn't the main knight who says "nee" also played by the actor that did Sir Bedivere? I feel like it's the same guy.
Was it?
Because Sir Bedivere always had to lift his thing up to talk, and then he would let it go.
Was it Graham? Terry Jones? Was it Terry Jones?
I think it might have been Terry Jones. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe then it very much looked like a knight's helmet once he lifted that sort of skull bit up off the front. Funny how we both
was Michael
went
Palin.
to
Michael
was
Palin
it?
that did that.
All right.
Yeah.
It very much looked like a knight from the Holy Grail.
God, this bit is great. It is odd to me that it doesn't rate as high. It probably isn't as like knee slapping, or we are touching some ground we've been before with like Rimmer's past and how he feels about himself. But like, I don't know. I love the concept of this one a ton. I think it's I love their escape and that they run away, and then you meet the new Lister and he's chill. The other Listers, like, they get each, as opposed to being weird with each other. He's like, come on, man, you get it. Like,
so you know who he is, don't you?
Who is that? No.
So have you ever seen, and I'm assuming you must have, Blake, Guy Ritchie's
familiar.
Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels?
Oh, yeah.
So the two Scousers that get charged to go and break into the house to nick the shotguns. You mean shotguns? You mean like guns that fire shot? Oh, you must be the brains of the bunch. He's the other one. Not the one with the big curly perm who gets shot down the middle. He's the other one.
Yep. I knew he looked familiar.
Yes.
And then Danny John Jules, right? He's also in Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels.
He was,
speaks,
yes.
They have to translate him or whatever as he talks.
So that was cool. But yes, it's when he's
That's who that was.
I'm going to do something really gross now, Crichton, so don't look.
Oh my God, I love that. And just the view from behind and Crichton's face looking at camera like,
there's
so there only one
possible
one
explanation.
logical way. You want 6, sir. 6.
It's in your jacket, isn't it, sir? Brilliant. I've really come round to Crichton. I like him a lot.
He's, oh God, I love Crichton. Like, he just makes me so happy.
I thought it was interesting. There was a couple of callbacks in this, but when they first bump into those two, and it's like, they don't know us, they don't know who we are, and he's like,
you mean, and Rimmer has changed clothes?
I hadn't noticed that.
He's back in his green outfit from the previous series up until the deletion, and then when he comes back, he's in a red outfit.
I didn't notice that
episode. Weird, right? But yeah.
Now I'm going back further than that. So when he's like, they don't know who they are, and he's like, if I didn't know you, how would I know that you did this? Like, some woman, I can't remember what her name is, Fiona someone or other, where you thought you'd got lucky, and it turns out you had your hand in a pot of compost for 20 minutes.
Warm compost.
Which is hilarious. And I know that you joined the Samaritans, and you were only there for like 5 hours, and in that 5 hours, 4 people committed suicide, and you always sign your name, which is actually Arnold J. Rimmer, and you tell everyone that the J stands for Jonathan, which is Chris Barry's middle name by interesting fact, and it's actually Judas, but you sign Arnold Rimmer BSc, and BSc stands for Bronze Swimming Certificate, and we haven't had those references, the Samaritans thing and the Bronze Swimming Certificate, for ages. What I would have liked to have seen, have seen is that compost joke is funny, But I would have liked that reference to have been Yvonne Magruder, not somebody else. And I know that's just me and continuity, and I feel like they missed a trick, especially when they did reference stuff that we've already had referenced in previous episodes. It would have been funnier if, like, I know your first sexual experience was with the female boxing champion, Yvonne Magruder. That, rather than coming up with something completely new that we've never heard before. Again, that's just me nitpicking.
Or that you thought you were making out with your hot cousin or whatever,
yes.
Your Uncle Frank or whatever,
yeah.
whatever that was.
It would have been fun, like, just from a continuity's point of view, I would have loved it if they'd have done that. Because they do go there with the Samaritans and the swimming certificate thing, but then do something not in continuity. And I know it's just me.
Well, I think it's brilliant. Because again, I don't know these shows as total seasons, right? I could tell it was the first episode and then it was early episodes, but I didn't know if it was season 1 or 2. And then, now Crichton exists, right? Because, obviously even back in the day, we didn't talk about series. We just didn't do that,
No.
So I kind of have before Crichton, after Crichton, and then beginning Crichton and later Crichton was kind of how I knew things. And what's fascinating is I love that all this got repeated very quickly, because his name and the swimming certificate will play a vital role moving forward in the last episode of this series.
Okay.
And I was like, that is awesome, actually, because it's drops a little thing in there, which I think is funny that they were like looking at planning that out.
The funniest bit in this for actual comedy value is, I can't remember what they're talking about now. So Lister and Crichton are talking about something, and it's like, I can tell when it's about being afraid to die. When I know you're afraid to die. And it's like, why? Why do you know that, sir? It's like, because your leg bounces. And it's like just slightly moving. It's like, I don't
when you're lying.
Care about. And then by the end of it, he's like, I was howling watching that. It was hilarious.
I believe in silicone heaven. Are you working on those manacles yet, sir?
So funny. So funny. Crichton is brilliant. Like I say, I never thought Crichton would end up being... he's after these 2 episodes, my favourite character right now. So good.
He's amazing. But you know what? Why this show is fascinating is you could look at it and go, okay, Crichton, but you can't remove anybody out of this. Like, you need the rest of the crew for Crichton to work, and you need, it's so specific. And if we ever sit down to watch the American version, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It does not work with other people,
right?
Like it needs to be this,
yes.
And there, and the American version starts Crichton off from the very beginning, which, to be honest, you could do. If you knew you were going to get to Crichton, you could have had Crichton be on the ship and just be a cleaning droid like that. That's not a hard thing to do.
You get rid of the Scutters and you add Crichton in, because like you said right from the start, the Scutters were there purely because Rimmer can't touch anything,
right? Or you just do the Nebula whatever rescue, whatever that ship was called that you find him on. That's episode 2 or 3, whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean. What's the ship?
The Nova 5.
Nova 5.
Oof, my brain actually does work. Wow.
That's pretty good.
Another note I've put in here. So obviously Lister just goes, I'm not going to justify my existence. Whatever. Smeg off. He could have quite easily justified his existence. Because
easily.
There is an entire race of people that exist because of Lister. And without him, cat people don't exist. Or potentially don't exist.
Right. So you'd have to think that the other Listers smuggled the cat too for Frankenstein to evolve and have babies, and that's where Cat came from. As I told you, watching a ton of Back to the Future and Terminator movies made me, especially on my subsequent viewings, like really go, wait a minute. Okay, so if you don't do this, what does exist? What has happened?
Because the argument is that Lister, who they meet on Red Dwarf, is virtually the same. He's still a lowly, third technician. He doesn't look any different. He doesn't really act an awful lot different. You would, like you said, you assume he went through the same thing. Like, he must have affected Rimmer because the drive plate never got repaired, so the crew went and he gone into stasis with the cat, and the cat people existed. So what did he do that our Lister didn't do to justify his existence now and our Lister being wiped out? That's what I want to know.
Because it would have to be a lot of the same things. Remember, we've already had a world where actually Rimmer didn't die, but he died later because he got blown up by those boxes.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Technically. Yeah. So you start to play with the science fiction and time continuity of Red Dwarf starts to mess with your
There's
head
a
pretty
ton
fast.
in this because we establish at the end of this that the Inquisitor's gauntlet has time travel capabilities. So rather than trying to sort out what's happening right now, effectively Lister and Crichton could have gone back in time, told Rimmer, like, pop up, like Stasis Leak, pop up out of the table and gone, now I'm from the future and I'm going to tell you something incredibly important now, Rimmer. You need to make sure that you repair that drive plate properly, otherwise everyone on the entire ship is going to die. And effectively, I mean, I know they're not going to, because then you can't make any series moving forward, but they could have literally erased everything that's happened with Red Dwarf, snap of a finger.
Yeah, and go, why didn't we do that?
Again, you understand why, because we're watching a TV show. If it was reality, they would have done that. But you've got a time travel gauntlet. Why not use it for something other than going back like 20 minutes to save them too?
I do like the show is enough of a boilerplate and like it's moving fast enough that it feels like they just make the decisions to go quick.
I mean, which you probably would, to be fair.
That whole scene where the cat and then Rimmer are destroyed, and then they're like, okay, I'm going to reprogram the gun. What? And he's like, what do I need? Oh yeah, it's the late lightsaber like chainsaw.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, what do I say? He's like, oh yeah, no, I remember. Don't tell me. And he's like putting everything together. That moment of Crichton really cracks me up. And then and he's like, yeah, but he got the cat and Rimmer. I know, sir. Click. Beep, 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 beep. All in all, sir, today's been a bit of a bummer, hasn't it? Like that delivery, because again, Lister says it very honestly, like, even if we do this, they're dead. I don't know that we can fix that. Like, all in all, today's been a bit of a bummer, hasn't it, sir? Beep, 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 beep. All right, I'm good to go. Like, it just cracks me up. And then a very Lister like standoff there. I love the whole fake out of like, I saved you so that you can't erase me, because then there's nobody to catch you. But if I erase you, you'll never have done this first place. Oh, yeah.
It feels, the end of this episode feels very much like the Simulant episode.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar, the end of it. Like basically getting chased by some random sort of robot-y thing.
You will have undone all my work. Which, as I said, what does that unravel? Like, because that means everybody that he ever did that to. How long has he been doing it? Enough to be a legend.
Is that what would happen if he...
Because he says it when he's disappearing. He goes, no, you will have undone all my work. So the guy in the beginning wouldn't have been changed.
Wow.
So, right. That's what I'm saying. And so that's where it becomes a larger science fiction concept in and of itself.
Not large, huge.
Yeah, huge. How many ripples? But then, as you said, the Lister that stepped in, he wasn't very different.
No.
So what does that say? Does that say actually the simulant is wrong? Because,
maybe. I never considered that. Yeah.
Time, place, nurture, nature, that whole thing, starts to play into it, and you get a more existential conversation than I think you would think you'd get out of a Red Dwarf TV show.
That's very true. Yeah, because the argument is, if the Lister that replaced our Lister had done anything majorly different, it would have affected everything, and yet we're still 3 million years from Earth. All the crew are gone. The same 4 people are still on that ship, all in the same places that they were. So nothing's changed substantially, at least for them, by changing that Lister out.
Like you said, you need a whole race of people that's created. So you need a Lister that's done that. So it's, again, we might be thinking about it more than they are.
Oh, way more.
But even when you think about it, I think it's pretty fun and interesting. And that's why I think it is a really cool science fiction concept that would have made an awesome, just on its own story.
It could have been funny because they could have gone the other way, where it was Rimmer that got wiped out, and then suddenly when they pop back in, it's like Ace Rimmer. Ace Rimmer's on the ship instead of him. That would have been funny. And then you find out that they would have been in that they would have been in that dimension where Ace Rimmer was. That could have been interesting. There's so many ways you could have gone with this, to be fair. Yeah,
and so it's surprising to me because it does, at least from viewer ratings on IMDb, for whatever that's worth, rate lower than most other things. Strange. I would like to bring something up. I'm curious. This is a technical thing.
Okay.
My wife and I've been buying the seasons series on Apple as we get to them, And I said, well, I don't have to buy series 5. And I meant to bring this up in the last episode. So we went to Peacock to watch it.
Yes, because I got told, like, I've seen people posting that Red Dwarf's now on Peacock.
So I didn't watch any other episode than Hollow Ship, but we tried to watch Hollow Ship for 5 minutes and then went and bought the series. Because literally, the character, every time the characters would get up and move and the camera would move, it got wobbly. And I literally mean like wobbly.
What?
Like snake. And we were like, is there something wrong with the internet? And we went back and watched it. And I went, she goes, well, let's see if it clears up. And then we're like, no. I said, screw it. It's $10. I'm buy the episode series. So I went and bought the series and started. When we started it, I said,
I thought you were going to say it was doing it again. We realized it was the TV.
No. So we watch it and I'm like, so this looks good on Apple. I said, there's a difference in fidelity, and that's crazy because this should be the highest fidelity. So then I go back to Peacock. This is all looped in because of simulants and AI, guys. And I go, after we watch, let's watch this again. We start like, nope. And it's like, it's bad.
That's weird.
So, but it looks, when no one's moving, it looks better. And then I looked it up, and Peacock and several other streaming services are using AI to upscale their older shows. So one example, if you look this up, is Roseanne.
Okay.
The older TV show.
Yep.
People are showing pictures of side-by-sides where people in the background, you can't see them now. They get all jangled and mangled. Things written on boards you can't read because the AI tries to make them more fidelity, but then it doesn't know that it's letters and it screws it all up.
Interesting.
So when they were standing still, it actually looked quote unquote better, but when they would move, it was a mess. Because mind you, they're not doing this painstakingly bit by bit, like say the new Aliens 4K was, but had like some AI thing helped with the color grading and stuff. This is just slap it on and let it go, right? This is you and me doing a podcast going, I don't want to screw with this. I'll just click a noise removal, right?
Oh my God, right. So it's funny you mentioned that. So I've just discovered Adobe Podcast. And as part of Adobe Podcast, it has a voice enhancer. And so I thought, I'll give it a try for my other podcast. And we have some segments that are recorded by other people. And I ran that through and I'm like, oh my God, this sounds so much better. Do you know what? I'm going to run the whole podcast through it. So I did. Yeah, it didn't quite work as well as I wanted it to.
I think that's the thing with this. And who's going back and checking Red Dwarf right now but us?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And it's bad, man. We were like, what is going... Every time the camera would move, it got all wobbly. And yep, then I looked it up and go, what is this? And it is whatever the AI feature is. And obviously people are complaining about the Roseanne one, so maybe they might start doing something. But... and I think that one's on Disney Plus. But yeah, can you just leave our old shows alone? It's okay. We get that they're old.
Do you know what?
We don't need them to look.
No, of course you don't, because that's half the. It's like listening. Yeah. It's like listening to vinyl. The crackle's half the reason to listen to it on vinyl.
Yep.
It's funny you say it, because obviously we're watching these Red Dwarf on the BBC iPlayer over here, and it's, to be fair, quality wise, it's pretty decent. And as I've said, we're also watching Malcolm in the Middle on Disney Plus, and there's times when it looks bloody awful, like fuzzy and like just like, when you get, if you're watching YouTube and the quality goes down to like 480p and it gets that, like, it doesn't go blocky, it just goes fuzzy. It looks like that at times and it's awful. And it's like Malcolm in the Middle was like out after Red Dwarf, is that right? Like early 90s. Yeah. And Red Dwarf, so the original series of Red Dwarf looks better on iPlayer than Malcolm in the Middle does in like season 6.
So I actually just did a very quick search. Peacock streaming free on the Red Dwarf subreddit.
Okay.
Just did my usual TV search to watch random freebie Red Dwarf episodes and had Peacock listed. Took me to the first episode with ads for free, no login. I didn't pay for their service. So I hopped out and started where I left off recently and started rewatching Marooned. So far, so good. Edit. Checked season 12, episode 5, which is interesting. It looks like we got 12 free seasons available here in the USA. Visual quality is better here and commercials are shorter than Fandango. I think this might be the highest quality image I've ever seen of the show. And I will agree. It looked really good.
Okay.
Not widescreen, but sharp image. Or maybe I got it low. Maybe I got used to low with quality free streaming. Follow up edit. I'm noticing some distortion during heavy character movement on some scenes. It's making like a wave effect to the shot.
There you go.
Might be some kind of AI upscaling that's causing distortions. He says it's bearable. I said it wasn't. This was happening in the scene where they were in Hollow Ship. They were watching the old movie.
Right.
And when the camera would pan back and forth and they would move, it would go.
Oh my God.
And wobble. So isn't that nuts? I'm like, guys, come on. Like you said, this is an old show. I don't need...
Just leave it alone, yeah.
I love how season 1 and 2 look like they do. I love that I hear the wood slam when metal doors shut. Like,
That's
you know,
weird.
like you said, let it be. But I meant to bring that up in the last episode, and I was like, I thought I'll save a little money. Well, no.
Yeah, please don't watch it on... Just get a VPN and watch them on BBC iPlayer for free.
That's the first comment on the Red Dwarf. Just get a VPN and watch it on the iPlayer.
Exactly. Interesting. Well, that was relevant to the conversation, but not really. I like that. That was interesting. But yeah, that's weird. Because I remember telling you about it when I saw that it was streaming on Peacock. It's like, I know Peacock will be something you would probably have. Maybe it might save you a bit of money, but yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I couldn't watch
Peacock's
it.
the only way I get a bunch of Premier League matches here. Well, I love that we can actually get more Premier League matches here to watch at TV than you can in England. And that's pretty much how I watch most of them.
I won't pay for Sky, so I don't get to watch any of them. So there we go. So going on to what we were talking about, like with the last episode a little bit, we do like to talk about when these episodes were supposed to air and stuff. So apparently this was the second episode that was filmed, but it was considered by Rob Grant and Doug Naylor to lead the series, but as it was heavily sci-fi influenced, the casual viewer-friendly Hollow Ship was chosen to go out first instead, which I find that interesting. 5 series in, you would go with a less sci-fi episode.
Well, I think Hollow Ship, like, it's obviously kind of makes nods to Star Trek if you haven't seen it. Because again, you know,
it's more accessible, I guess, at that point.
Yeah, I think that's what they're after. Because again, it's that, you know, it's a time that, like, it's weird to think about how different it is in that, you know, you didn't think about watching these things like we are, the ability to watch them one after the other. Strange,
isn't it? It's weird. It's weird to get your head into how the world used to be, because even as a 50-year-old, the world has affected me so much that, like, it is what it is now. And to think back, like we talk about this, did you know? Like, I'm trying to think back now to when I started watching Red Dwarf. Did I know? Like, I'm assuming I knew the first episode was the first episode, but if I happened to miss a week, would I have known? Did we know, like, episode 6? Like, did I know that was the series end and then we were going into a new series or not?
Exactly. And the new opening title sequence for this, which shows, because I really remember series 5 a whole lot, I'm going, oh, wow, those bits are all from series 5. But when I watched this, I didn't know, for all I knew, it was from the whole history of the whole show.
Yes.
And so I didn't recognize when I might see one later and go, oh, that's from the Terraform episode. But I didn't know that was series 5. You know, that's just not, I just know it's Crichton, pre-Crichton.
That's a really good point, actually. Because the first 2 series, the intro is the same, isn't it? Slow, like, I still love that intro. Again, it's probably just because they were my most favorite episode. Then we cut the slow move and went into just with different clips in series 3. Yeah. So is the intro in series 4 different to the one of series 3, or is it the same?
Yes, series 4 is more the doors open, their faces are in it, like,
and different clips, though,
clips
I guess,
from series 4, not series 5.
So what about series 3? Are the clips? Is that clips from series 3? I can't remember.
Oh man, how it wasn't that long ago, Lee. How have I already forgotten?
I'm trying to remember, because series 3 was when we stopped getting Holly, like the additional, wasn't it? They only did that for the first 2 series. So then, it was just like you said, it's the Starbug crash noise, and then into the do.
Okay, it is. So it's the shot of the Red Dwarf.
Still,
and then it goes down. Yeah.
So it's the same as series 1
and 2.
And
it just
2,
shows
then.
clips from series 3.
That's weird. So it still has the same opening as series 1 and 2,
but just for a brief second.
Okay,
and then it shifts. Yeah.
Not as slow in, because I love that initial, like, let's be honest, that initial intro of the show with a it's just so ominous. It's cool. I love it.
Well, and it does make things like frightening. Like, there is this sort of like depressiveness about it.
But then the new intro, like, just going straight into the music, and that, it makes more sense for where the show's at right now.
Yeah, it does. I still just like I wish you could still do the slow Bum, 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 bum.
Yes.
I think that's what I like, the splitting the difference.
But you just think about
the
it,
two.
doesn't it? Because you're like you were focused in on the guy painting the ship, and then pan back to see this on this huge, and it's just so good, like quintessential Red Dwarf. Doesn't matter that there's only like 2 series of that. That will always be the intro of this show for me.
And painting it poorly.
Yes. Whew. Well, we talked about the episode and talked about some real tangents on that one again. But I love that. I love that that's what we do.
I love this episode's concept a lot. I think the concept is so cool.
When, like you've explained, like I'm not as intelligent as you. I kind of watch things a lot of the time at face value. Usually I'm struggling to stay awake most of the time, if I'm honest with you.
That was me last night.
I'm like that nearly every night, to be fair.
Well, I suppose this brings to like, where do we rate this?
See, again, I didn't actually give this a rating when I watched it for the 3rd time last night. I was like, I really enjoyed that. Discussing it with you, obviously you have a lot more intelligent. Because of your, I won't say intelligent, but you are. I'll give you that praise. But
well, I appreciate that.
You look at these from a very different perspective than I do because of your background. Like you see it from having produced things like this. So you see it from a production point of view, whereas I see it from just a TV show's point of view. So obviously, like having these conversations with you of being a writer and a director, and obviously you see things way different than I do. And then that's what I love, that we can sit down and talk about an episode, like the last one, that you can bring points up and make me realise different things about it and go, actually, do you know what? You're right. It is better than I perceived it as. And this one's definitely that. Huge sci-fi concept.
I'm just shocked that on the IMDb, this is obviously looking at the ratings, a pretty popular series of Red Dwarf, because some of these have very high ratings. And I'm surprised this is the lowest one. And I guess looking at them all, maybe when the dust settles, something had to fall at the bottom. Well, it still rates as an 8. So on IMDb.
So then the argument is it too big of a sci-fi concept for people? Did people come for like a dumb space comedy and get this really high concept sci-fi thing?
I would agree with you, except I know what's coming.
Okay.
So there's a lot of high concept. So I think it's just that this is, I mean, for me personally, the next 4 episodes we move into, these are all ones I very much enjoy.
Okay.
And looking at the IMDb ratings, I can tell I am not alone. It might just be if we were doing this weekly as they came out, it could have rated higher. It may be that in the context of all of them, they don't rate as high.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Which, we are doing too, as we go back and alternate our top 5,
So I'm wondering then if something of this is kind of what I brought up earlier, that it does feel similar to stuff we've already had. And maybe people who are like, oh, this is similar to...
It could kind of similar to Justice.
Yeah, we've kind of seen a little bit of this before, and so it's not... like people will rate it lower than that because it's not... It feels similar. Rather than you could do an episode that's completely different to anything you've done before.
This one's also a very cheap episode. Don't get me wrong about that. That's not a bad thing. Marooned was on one set, and it's one of my favorite episodes. But the previous episode, a lot of different new sets, the hollow ship and all that stuff. And the subsequent episodes, in fact, what's next?
I'm going to have to have a look at them.
So looking at Series 5, oh yeah, man, we are about to travel around a bunch of different set pieces for the next 4 episodes. And the first one does too. So this is probably their cheapest one to make. And so there is a little less spectacular than the rest, but I just love the concept. But the Justice one is a similar-ish vibe.
I think so.
Although we said hollow ship, you could say, why are you just doing Camille again? But with Rimmer instead of Crichton. But
yeah,
it is different. And Rimmer it's one of those moments where Rimmer's different. If given the choice, those two would go travel off together. Right? And we haven't seen Rimmer have that connection that was genuine or, So to me, I like it because it's a growth thing.
Yes.
But I just do.
I mean, I'm looking at the episodes moving forward and it's like, okay, don't necessarily remember the episode, but I very much remember that. And then the last one of this episode is like, again, don't kind of remember the episode, but very much remember that.
Yep. I just love them so much. The next one. Actually, though, I did lie. The next one actually rates the lowest. Inquisitor is second lowest on IMDb, which is bonkers to me because Terraform is great. I love Terraform, and it has. If as we keep doing this, I keep going like, what are my favorite just things? Like, forget rating the shows. Has one of my favorite lines? I have a couple of favorite lines, but Terraform definitely has one of my favorite lines ever.
Interesting. Cool. I am excited.
Just as a 12-year-old, I thought I knew how to insult people. Then I heard certain lines and was like, oh, that's...
Look, we're British. The British know how to insult people better than anybody on the planet.
This one's great. But I love Inquisitor. I don't know, man. I love the concept. I would love to watch a whole, like, this is one, the Red Dwarf books, which I sent Lee some pictures a few days ago, because I found backwards. I found Infinity, Last Human. I found Infinity and Beyond, or whatever it's called, Beyond Infinity, whatever. But I have, or Infinity Welcomes Careful Drivers.
Yes.
Basically the first book. But I found all the books. I think I'm missing one. I think the second one I'm missing.
Okay.
But I'm very excited because, like, to me, a lot of the books, like, backwards take the idea of the episode, but it is a far larger, it's most of the book, right? And if they were still writing books, I could see the Inquisitor being a whole book, like this idea where you'd really get to know the other Lister, and it would go bigger than the episode, and they'd run away and travel and all this kind of stuff.
I do want to read them at some point for definite, but it takes me 6 months to read a book, so it might be a while.
Oh, buddy, I'm so slow. I'm trying to finish reading the first Murderbot Diaries, which the new show on Apple looks awesome.
It does look awesome. Tracy and I watched the trailer for it yesterday, and we're both in with that.
I was very excited to see that he talks as a narrator, because the book is from the first person. It's one of the best things about it. Okay. And I just thought, if they do a show, I really hope they don't. And I'm glad to see that they're doing that, because it would not work otherwise. I'm not super keen on the casting. I like Skarsgård, but when I read the book, it's just one of those, I imagine something very different in my head, so it's hard to see it. And that's always tough for books to movies.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, there's very few that, like,
nail it.
Where you go, man, that is weirdly... Lord of the Rings gets a big shout out. If Peter Jackson did anything right, and I do think he did a lot of things right, pretty much everybody in that movie is almost what I imagined as reading that the first go round. But yeah, I don't know. Love Inquisitor. I rated it. I kept bouncing between a 7 and an 8. Like with it, like I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with 7, but it's a very loving 7.
That's where I've settled on it. I'm gonna give it a 7 too. I did really enjoy it, and again, like I say, and not necessarily from a comedy show point of view, I keep going back to that scene with Crichton is just so well acted. It's brilliant. And the weird thing is, it's Robert Llewellyn acting with Robert Llewellyn. It's literally just him. And it's so well done.
Well, I love that you have those moments, and then it lets him have those, all in all, today's a bit of a bummer,
yes,
sir. Like, and again, and I don't know what it was about this previous episode and this episode that you and I both, like, something has shifted, and the comedy really is when he's just trying to be human.
Yes.
And when he talks to himself, if you notice, it's the same way he talks to the android that's supposed to replace him.
Yes.
He gets this very, like, serious, like, oh, I'm talking to a peer now. I can drop all this other stuff, and, like, we're both, or I can act like I'm supposed to act around another android, kind of a thing. But you're right. That speech, that's straight out of an awesome sci-fi story where you'd have this best friend robot that saves the day by having a conversation, like old school Star Trek, where the main villain or conceit would be defeated by a conversation, a question asked or whatever. And that's what makes not only the overall sci-fi concept good, but the conversation that Crichton has with the Inquisitor as himself fits into that kind of, like, deep sci-fi story.
And that's funny because you've literally just mentioned an episode of Red Dwarf, because that's how he defeats the simulant back in the other one about Silicon Heaven.
And let me just have this conversation, which of course is funny when he's like, I was lying. Simulant Heaven, where are all the toasters go? Like,
yeah, there you go. Nice. I think that's a perfect end.
I love it. All right, well, that then brings us to the end of this old podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Dwarf Memory and Twitter at Dwarf_Memory for all show updates.
please go and subscribe to the podcast and leave us some ratings and reviews. People haven't really, I think we've got 4 in the UK and none anywhere else. We'd really appreciate if you go and leave us a rating and review, unless they're crap and then we don't want them.
Yeah, whoever our buddy is that emailed that said he was like me, an American that stumbled into Red Dwarf on PBS, and get us a USA review up there, would you?
That'd be cool.
We need one of those.
Yeah, and whatever platform you're on, and of course send us your comments and anything else you want to our email at dwarfmemory@gmail.com, because we need more emails than just Craig Lucas at this point. Sorry,
It's
Craig,
true,
I love you, buddy, but yeah.
But we appreciate you, Craig. Don't stop. The next episode we'll be discussing will be Series 5, Episode 3, Terraform. I'm so excited. So make sure to watch before you listen to that episode.
Oh, it worked.
It worked.
Braswell, you're a genius.
It was your scheme, sir. I simply reprogrammed the gauntlet.
So what happens now?
Well, basically, we wait for the time-space continuum to reorder itself. I believe this is an appropriate junction for you to give me a high 5, sir.
Give you 5? I can do better than that. I can give you 15.